from the Sandman's crazy ability of sand shifting to the terrifying tentacles of Dr. Octopus. Here's a list of the scariest Spider-Man villains. So let's start off with the Lizard. Although a lot of fans will say that the mentor-turned-supervillain plot wasn't done as well in this story as it was in Spider-Man 2.
Poor Peter Parker. No mother. No father. No uncle.
But it still made for great moral ambiguity when Peter Parker went up against what Connors had become. Dr. Kurt was a great army doctor who lost his arm while trying to save lives on the battlefield, after which he tried to find a way to grow back his missing limb. He made a serum and put it on himself because he thought the answer was in the DNA of snakes. But let's just say things didn't exactly go as planned. The drug changed him into the Lizard, a man who looks like a reptile. And after that, we see how Dr. Connors has no control over himself when he's the Lizard, and he turns into a monster who only wants to hurt people. This tells you that even though he's crazy, his plans are well thought out and more likely to do some real damage, making him all the more scarier. In fact, he reminds me a lot of Electro, and what makes him such a scary villain is his transformation.
High-intensity capacitors. The kind that make it oscillate. All of this, because you're trying to help me.
You are correct.
Max Dillon is a lonely and unappreciated man who becomes obsessed with Spider-Man after a chance encounter. And when he gains his powers, he becomes a vengeful and unstable force, driven by his desire for recognition and revenge. Jamie Foxx's portrayal of the character is one of the most unsettling and intense performances in the Spider-Man franchise. He's got the ability to control and manipulate electricity. He can shoot lightning bolts from his fingertips, create energy shields, and even travel through power lines. And when it comes to the fight scenes, he's a force to be reckoned with. He can take on Spider-Man and the police with ease, and his powers make him almost invincible. So watching him wreak havoc on a city with his electric powers is both thrilling and terrifying. But hey, at least he's not as bad as the Vulture. The best thing about this guy is that he gives the MCU a smaller size that we don't see much of anymore.
Probably just drag on the new turbines.
Especially since time-bending characters like Kang the Conqueror are now being added. Plus, Michael Keaton's acting is nothing short of amazing. From the moment he appears on screen, you know you're in for a wild ride. His menacing voice and the way he carries himself are enough to send shivers down your spine. But let's talk about his wings, because they're not just any ordinary wings. They're made of salvaged Chitauri technology, and they allow him to fly at incredible speeds. Plus, the way he swoops down from the sky and snatches people up is just terrifying. But what really sets this guy apart from the other villains is his relatability. In the 2017 film Spider-Man Homecoming, Toomes isn't portrayed as a one-dimensional villain. No, he's got a family and a personal vendetta against Stark, and his motivations are understandable, even if his actions are not. This makes him a more complex and compelling character, and adds an extra layer of fear to his villainy. But hold on, if you guys thought he was the scariest one yet, how could I not mention the Sandman? Hands down, one of the best villains we see in Spider-Man 3. His character's also made better by the fact that he didn't set out to be bad. He only did bad things because he needed money to help his sick daughter.
My daughter was dying. I needed money. I was scared.
And as a result of that, he became the Sandman. The way he transforms from ordinary sand into a towering monster is absolutely bone-chilling. And the sound of the sand shifting, and the way his body contorts as he grows is enough to give anyone nightmares. Also, let's not forget the way he attacks Spider-Man. With each punch, it's like he's throwing a sack of bricks. If you thought that was scary, just wait until you see his final battle with Spider-Man. The way he towers over the city, throwing cars and buildings like they're nothing, is enough to make anyone tremble in fear. Oh, and how could I forget to tell you about the creature you definitely don't want to mess with? Venom, of course. Originally introduced as an alien symbiote in the comics, he's become a fan-favorite character in his own right. This is mostly thanks to the dynamic performance of Tom Hardy in the 2018 film. But what makes him so interesting? Well, he's a terrifying monster with razor-sharp teeth and a seemingly insatiable hunger for human flesh. But then again, he's also a symbiotic partner to Eddie Brock, a disgraced journalist who becomes his host. And as the two bond together, they form a kind of twisted partnership, with Eddie often struggling to control Venom's violent tendencies. Yet, despite their differences, they also develop a strange sort of affection for one another, and Venom isn't just a mindless monster. Far from it, actually. In fact, he's able to lift massive objects and withstand attacks from even the toughest opponents. He also has the ability to shapeshift his body and even create tendrils from his symbiote suit. And when all else fails, he can always resort to his signature move, the deadly Venom Bite. This killer move delivers a potent dose of his symbiote's toxic saliva. Speaking of monsters, let's talk about the most formidable opponent of our favorite wall crawler, Dr. Octopus. He used to be a great scientist, but his name comes from the robotic tentacles that turned him evil. I mean, there's no way you don't know about him. He's been shown in 3 different movies: Spider-Man 2, No Way Home, and Into the Spider-Verse. But what makes him so scary is his use of technology. His 4 mechanical tentacles not only give him superhuman strength, but also allow him to manipulate objects from a distance. But despite his fearsome abilities, what makes Doc Ock such a memorable villain is his complex relationship with Peter Parker. In the movie, we see him go from being a respected scientist to a desperate man who will stop at nothing to complete his experiments. Seriously, guys, those tentacles are no joke. And don't even get me started on that train scene. My heart was literally racing the whole time. This brings me to one of Spider-Man's most iconic foes. The Green Goblin was honestly beyond creepy. So to give you a bit of a backstory, the scientist Norman Osborn was trying out a formula that'd give him a lot more strength and brains. That is, if it worked, of course. Fast forward to the present day, and the formula blew up in his face. And even though it did make him smarter and stronger, it also sorta drove him crazy. That's when he became the Green Goblin, who's not only Spider-Man's biggest enemy, but also a dangerous threat to all of the heroes in the Marvel Universe. But it's not just his abilities that make him so scary, it's also his unpredictability. In the 2002 Spider-Man movie, Willem Dafoe's performance was nothing short of chilling. His erratic behavior and maniacal laughter made him truly unsettling to watch. And let's just say he killed a lot of people. But killing Peter Parker's ex-girlfriend Gwen Stacy just to hurt Spider-Man may be the saddest thing he's done. Also, who can forget that scene where he throws that pumpkin bomb at Spider-Man? That was intense. Well, this is it, guys. These were all of the scariest Spider-Man villains.